Milk tank, use cream. Mmm. Delicious. Keep this up and I won't turn you into a steak. Do my eyes deceive me? It's a Caterpie Pokemon Snap. Now that we're back in the lab, allow me to introduce myself. I am Professor Christmas Tree. I, of course, live here, in the North Pole, a canonical place where Santa lives in the Pokemon anime. And who might you be, young travelers? Brock the Rock-type gym leader, Misty the Water-type gym leader, and let me guess, Ash, let me guess. You must be a Fire-type gym leader, no? Oh, but with a goal like catching all of the Pokemon, your name should be, I don't know, Ketchum or something. That's your last name. No shit. Butt lovers, consider this the beginner's guide to the magical and, quite frankly, concerning world of Pokemon. There is no way to cover all 1,164 Pokemon, which also includes their variants, in this video. So today, I will not only present the basics, but also some head scratchers that keep me up at night. This professor has some questions and theories that no one is interested in listening to. There is still so much to discover in the never-ending canon of Pokemon. But first, let's cover types. You know, the boring shit. Type advantages go like this. Basically, rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and paper beats rock. That's just a little joke, of course. If only it were that simple. The rock, paper, scissors of the Pokemon world can be seen in the starter types. Very straightforward stuff. Water beats fire, fire beats grass, and grass beats water. Oh, that doesn't sound too complicated. You ignorantly think to yourself. There are 18 types, not including stellar and question mark, both of which we'll talk about later. Back in 1999, when I was just but a wee lad, there were only 15 types. Now, 25 years later, we discover 3 more. Does that sound unrealistic? Consider this. According to the Science Museum of Virginia, about 18,000 species are discovered every year. Take that, Arceus theists. That's like atheists, but for the non-believers of our god, Arceus. My god, my Arceus rather. You still have so much to learn. Just to name a few more type advantages, fire is also strong against ice, bug, and steel. Makes sense. Ice will melt, steel will melt, bug will die. Bug is strong against grass types, psychic types, and dark types. Once again, makes sense. Bugs eat grass. Bug is a major fear affecting our psyches, and dark, I don't know, fireflies are a bug and they glow, illuminating and eliminating the dark. Whatever. Electric beats flying, of course. But ground is strong against poison. Now you lost me. What are you talking about? And what even is normal type? It's strong against nothing. It's also important to note that once Pokemon evolve, they can gain a type. Magikarp goes from a puny little water type and transforms into Gyarados, a water flying type. What the hell? I thought it was dragon. It's flying. Why would it be flying? I'd rather be shining. Aesthetics is defined as the appreciation of beauty. Beauty is considered to be in the eye of the beholder. But quite frankly, I think the rarer something is, the more sought out it is, the more beautiful it appears to people. Is this yellow Sonic more beautiful than the blue Sonic? I mean, shit, is yellow Lucario more beautiful than blue Lucario? Fuck no! But when you have a 1 in 1,892 chance of catching this, it's actually way rarer than that. It's 1 in 8,192. PP yellow starts to look more like gold. All that glitters is shiny. Are there any other differences between regular Pokemon and shiny Pokemon other than their looks? Nope. But people will dedicate their whole Pokemon careers to tracking down these mismatched freaks. Another important thing to note, evolutions may not follow the same color scheme. I caught a bright purple Cubchoo. The shiny drip distracted me from the disgusting drippy nose that makes me hate this Pokemon. This Pokemon looks like it's going to give me another sinus infection. It makes me want to punt this super spreader shithead. Here is me punting this super spreader shithead. But I loved the purple, and I thought, wow, this Beartic evolution will look even cooler. So imagine my betrayal when I saw this! This is the shiny Beartic. This is a regular Beartic. I wanted to die. My Beartic's fur, a new color. But because that would decrease the value of shinies, they haven't introduced Pokemon fur dye. But I'll keep experimenting until I find a way. Oh shit! Like I said, there's no Pokemon hair dye, but we have found a way to bring fossils back from the dead. We're playing Arceus. In generations 1 through 7 of the games, you bring fossils into a lab for scientists to bring back to life. Let's use the first 3 as an example. Helix fossil brings back an Ammonite, a Dome fossil brings back a Kabuto, and Amber brings back an Aerodactyl. But the anime takes all sorts of creative liberties.
Anime? What do you mean anime?
I've been watching you, Ash. We've all been watching you. In Attack of the Prehistoric Pokemon, a fossil rush is happening in Grandpa Canyon. Old shit being dug up in a place named Grandpa is a bit on the nose, don't you think? We see Gary, one of the best characters, finding what I thought to be an Ammonite, but turns out it's prehistoric poop. They dismiss it as gross and stinky, but it's still a really cool discovery that can help us find out a lot about Pokemon. Are we not even going to bother asking what Pokemon it came from and flush it down the toilet? Really? This episode completely 180s after Team Rocket accidentally woke up the fossils with dynamite.
Did somebody say boom?
So yeah, fully not extinct. Just hiding in a cave and sleeping. After they were awoken, they had bloodshot eyes and a look on their face that said, "Try me, bitch." All the Kabuto, Kabutops, Ammonite, and Amistar, which is what I say to myself every morning in the mirror. I'm a star. Anyway, all of them run away from Aerodactyl. And Aerodactyl even grabs Ash, flies into the sky, and then the Pokemon looks like he's going to eat Ash.
Do I live?
Ash, shut the fuck up, I'm getting there. This episode gave me nightmares as a kid. But I forgot how iconic the series of events that follows is. Aerodactyl makes a nanny poo-poo face at Charmeleon, sending him into such a fit of rage he turns into Charizard. This is also the episode where they find Togepi's egg. Wild. Even more wild, they forget this episode and the lesson to leave these creatures alone, because in the episode Shell Shock, they have to relearn it. That's right. And I never watched this episode until now, because back in the day, I refused to watch any episodes without Brock. But Brock's absence makes a lot of sense here, because he's the one that preached from the start to leave these Pokemon alone. Now that he's gone, Ash and Tracy join an excavation on Fukuhara Island number 4, and they find a cave full of calcified Kabuto. A Nurse Joy is leading their journey because there are rumors that Kabuto oil is the key to health and eternal life. Sounds like greed and animal cruelty and fuckery to me. They were warned by this dude, Umberto, to leave the Kabuto alone, but they completely ignore him. Normally, I would blame them for dismissing him more heavily, but to be fair, Umberto didn't open with the warning. He didn't start talking until Ash chased him down. No, Umberto tried to get them off the island by chucking giant rocks at them. I'm doing this for your own good, you say after almost killing them repeatedly. I hate to admit it, but I wouldn't trust you either. Turns out that cave full of calcified Kabuto is the only thing holding the island up, and once a disturbance is felt, the moon glows red and the Kabuto are brought back to life, as the island is swallowed up by the ocean. Exactly what the prophecy said. Now the Kabuto have to swim to a new place to go back to sleep. Sounds like we should maybe, leave these Pokemon alone! I sure hope Ash doesn't get amnesia again. He does, of course. But luckily, this next episode featuring fossils, titled Fossil Fools, is ironically the only time they're not acting like fools. The scientists are not seeking them out. In the runes of Elf, scientists are studying them, but trying to recreate their findings with robots instead. A student of Professor Oak's named Foster passionately explained that the first Pokemon emerged from the water. Sound familiar? It's kind of the exact origin of non-Pokemon animals, like mammals or birds, both of which also exist in the Pokemon universe, by the way. The weird part is how fossil Pokemon were summoned this time. Apparently, the scientists did such a good job recreating the environment that Ammonite and Amistar just appeared after their home was threatened by none other than Team Rocket. So once again, they are not extinct. This is the third time these kids found out that they're not extinct, but they're still shocked. The first time they brought back an extinct Pokemon from a fossil in the anime was in the Pokemon Chronicles episode putting the air back in Aerodactyl. And guess who made the discovery? discovery. Gary. This 10-year-old is OP, but once again, this creature is tortured. It has the memories of when it was alive, and it looks like Billie Eilish's What Was I Made For is playing repeatedly in its head, as he huddles where the egg and amber was found. I thought this would end like every other episode, where it seeks refuge in isolation with other extinct creatures, but instead, they tame the beast with fruit, completely weakening the sentiment they've been building up until this point, that we should leave forces we don't understand alone. The game Pokemon Sword and Shield takes this sci-fi horror to the next level, because apparently reviving Pokemon isn't enough. We should Frankenstein's monster these corpses by combining fossils in different ways. All the Pokemon that result from this look awesome, but take a look at this chart. Fossilized bird plus fossilized drake equals Dracozolt. Fossilized fish plus fossilized drake is Dracovish. Fossilized dino, fossilized bird, Arctozolt, and fossilized dino, fossilized fish, Arctovish. The sanity of these creatures seems to be holding on by a thread. Understandably so. It's time to whip out some literature on these fossil Pokemon. Look at this. It's the super duper extra deluxe essential handbook. All those buzzwords, I couldn't just not buy it. Kabuto, the shellfish Pokemon. While some say this species has gone extinct, Kabuto sightings are apparently fairly common in some places. So they're not extinct. Good to know. Let's read about the Kabutop's evolution. Kabutop slices its prey apart and sucks out the fluids. Dear God. The cause behind the extinction of this species is unknown. Yeah, it's unknown because they didn't go extinct. I thought we already established this. Kabutops were aggressive Pokemon that inhabited warm seas. Were the seas warm before they got there? Or are they releasing the fluids they previously sucked? I should phrase that another way. Aerodactyl. This is a ferocious Pokemon from ancient times. Yeah, I know, I saw. Apparently, even modern technology is incapable of producing a perfectly restored specimen. This is foreshadowing for later because they do in fact bring back a perfect specimen, which completely contradicts the anime where they were just sleeping. But maybe they were deteriorating as they slept, which is disgusting and very dark, but not the most dark or disgusting thing to happen in Pokemon. This world is sick. Oh, look at that. They're proving my point. Aerodactyl's saw-like fangs can shred skin to tatters, even the skin of steel-type Pokemon. Ash, you're lucky that thing fucking nanny poo-pooed your Charmeleon, or else you would have been dead. Ammonite. Because some Ammonite managed to escape after being restored or are released into the wild by people, this species is becoming a problem. Are you fucking kidding me? A problem, huh? It seems like these other professors couldn't reflect even if they were in a motherfucking mirror store. You're gonna call Ammonite the invasive species when we're the ones who keep fucking with them? We're the invasive species. The evolution, Amistar. Weighed down by a large and heavy shell, Amistar couldn't move very fast. Some say it went extinct because it was unable to catch food. I thought we already established it didn't go extinct. To the point where it's becoming a problem. I hate it here. Even though I'm a professor and I definitely should know this already, I'm surprised to discover that LITE is a rock grass type. This looks like the most poison type to ever poison. Tyrantrum, the evolved form of Tyrunt. A single bite of Tyrantrum's massive jaws will demolish a car. This Pokemon was the king of the ancient world. This reminds me of a little movie. It rhymes with Purassic Jark, and you guys are huge jarks for bringing them back. It doesn't even say their massive jaws would demolish a car. It says it will demolish a car. That sounds like a threat. Arcan is the first bird Pokemon. Its type is rock and flying, but it says it can't fly, so why is it a flying type? Why wouldn't it just gain that type when it evolves into Archeops? Anorith is the old shrimp. That was my nickname in college. It reminds me of the game Spore. It was from 100 million years ago. And much like how Arcan is the ancestor of all birds, Anorith is the ancestor of modern bug Pokemon, Amora. This Pokemon was successfully restored from a fossil. In the past, it lived with others of its kind in cold lands where there were fewer predators. Specimens of the species can sometimes be found frozen in ice. Was this the Pokemon Ice Age, perhaps? Rampardos, the headbutt Pokemon, the evolution of Cranidos. This ancient Pokemon used headbutt skillfully. Its brain was really small, so some theories suggest that its stupidity led to its extinction. If that were the case, humans would be extinct too. Stop bringing these Pokemon back to life just to bully them. I'm gonna cry. Arctovish went extinct from breathing complications. Arctozold went extinct from moving too slowly. Why do you think they have these problems? Could it perhaps be from the fossil breeding you used to bring them back to life? This is why I was kicked out of the academy. They didn't want to hear the truth. Now, all of those fossil Pokemon are different from the Paradox Pokemon. What are the Paradox Pokemon? Well, direct definition from the book here. Paradox Pokemon are Pokemon from out of time. Some are from the past and some are from the future. So did they just appear without human intervention? No, of course not. Professor Sada and Professor Turo were experimenting with a time machine. Celebi has been time traveling forever and has never shown us this. Rightfully so. The future variants are especially depressing. Let's start with the ancient relatives of Pokemon we all know and love. Screamtail. There has only been one reported sighting of this Pokemon. It resembles a mysterious Pokemon described in a paranormal magazine as Jigglypuff, yes I have eyes, from 1 billion years ago. Sandy Shocks. These names are so good. No records exist of this Pokemon being caught. Data is lacking. We caught the data lacking. But the Pokemon's trait match up with a creature shown in an expedition journal. It slightly resembles a Magneton that lived for 10,000 years. What's the usual lifespan of a Magneton? Great Tusk is so cool looking. The name Great Tusk was taken from a creature listed in a certain book. The paranormal magazine we keep hearing about. It's so vague to build intrigue, but it's really just putting me to sleep. Skipping over the boring ones, let's take a look at the legendaries. We have Walking Wake that resembles a Suicune, Gouging Fire for Entei, and Raging Bolt for Raikou. The ancient relatives of Suicune, Entei, and Raikou really confuse me because these three were awoken by Ho-Oh, which always made me think they were the ancient ones. Are these other guys just super ancient? As cool as these designs are, especially that long-ass neck for Raikou, it just lessens the impact of these already powerful Pokemon. All the other ancient Paradox Pokemon are in this book over here, but these three are not, which makes me think they're maybe backpedaling the canonicity of these three. I mean, right here in the description of regular Entei, this Pokemon is thought to have been born in the eruption of a volcano. It doesn't say from the eruption of an old but slightly more recent volcano. No, because that doesn't sound cool. Entei is supposed to be a legend, the ancient one. Wasn't that, for the most part, fun? Now let's see this robot takeover of the future, I guess. Iron Bundle, which is ice and water. None of these are metal types despite being robots. Its shape is similar to a robot featured in, guess what, a paranormal magazine. The robot was said to have been created by an ancient civilization. Then why is this in the future section? We also have Iron Hands. It is very similar to a cyborg covered exclusively by a paranormal magazine. Iron Jugulus, blah blah blah, paranormal magazine, described as the offspring of a Hydreigon that fell in love with a robot. You know what? I support it, as long as humans didn't make it. Iron Moth. This Pokemon resembles an unknown object described in paranormal magazine. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets different. As a UFO sent to observe humanity. If that's the case, why are we categorizing this as a Pokemon? Iron Thorns, a Tyranitar from 1 billion years in the future. You will never be Tyranitar. Iron Treads, a paranormal magazine claimed it was sent to this planet by aliens. So we discovered these Paradox Pokemon, and what did we discover? We were taken over? Awesome. So what are we going to do to avoid this timeline? We're just like, oh cool, they look like Pokemon but aren't. No, I'm scared. Me. Professor Christmas Tree. The voice goes in and out. Nothing's real. Once again, the only three that are unseen are legendaries. Good. I don't want to see them. Get them out of here. I understand the ancient and future Paradox versions of Scarlet and Violet's legendary Cyclizard, a lizard used as a motorcycle, naturally. But to apply it to the previous legendaries from other generations not only weakens the lore built up by the previous games, but it also weakens the lore of this game. There should only be one legendary with a past and future Paradox form, and it's this one, Scarlet and Violet's legendary, Cyclizard, because it feels intentional. It feels new. Actually, instead of this Pokemon being an accessory for humans, it would have been cool to see this normal type of the present feel incomplete, opening up a portal to see his ancestor and his descendant. Paradox Pokemon could have been a lot better, but let's bring it back to the basics. Like Mewtwo. What's his deal? Mewtwo was invented invented by humans to make Pokemon more sexy.
A what?
When talking about the creation of Mewtwo, we have to start with Pokémon, the first movie. I love that they just call it the first movie. Really to the point. You wouldn't expect it to open with a narrator pondering what the meaning of life is. We see the mythical Pokemon, Mew, zooming around, and Mewtwo's eyes open. He's in a test tube, and it's clear he had visions of the outside world from Mew, since he was made using Mew's DNA. These sketchy scientists preemptively celebrate, saying they made the most powerful Pokemon, for none other than Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket. They somehow did not anticipate their creation, Mewtwo, killing all of them in an explosion. Giovanni swoops in from his helicopter and deceives Mewtwo. Those scientists who I hired to create you as a weapon of mass destruction for me, the bad guy, did not have your best interest in mind, but I do. Look at me. I radiate a trustworthy energy. Mewtwo may have undeniable strength, but at this point, he does not have the smarts to match that. In his defense, it's his first day of life, but he teams up with Giovanni. Mewtwo enjoys seeing what his strength can do when focused just right, as Team Rocket captures various Pokemon. But when Mewtwo once again asks what his purpose is, Giovanni gives a very cocky and honest answer.
You work for me.
Apparently, Giovanni thought the Samus suit would contain the rage of Mewtwo. Pure hubris. Mewtwo easily breaks free and wages a war against the humans and Pokemon. Wait, what the fuck did the Pokemon do?
I mean, what do you say fuck me for?
I mean, Mewtwo clearly despises Mew. If there was no Mew, there'd be no Mewtwo, and at this point, Mewtwo would prefer that. Aww. Now that we're 10 minutes in and sufficiently sad and scared, we cut to Ash and friends, blissfully unaware of the havoc human greed has caused once again. Mewtwo seeks out the most powerful trainers, and when he's spying on them, we see him specifically observing the hugs and emotional connection between Pokemon and trainer. Mewtwo invites the trainers without revealing his identity, but creates a powerful storm, testing their dedication, before stealing and cloning their Pokemon. I know you don't want to feel alone while you're processing the unfortunate circumstances of your birth, but my guy, why are you subjecting other Pokemon to this? And on top of it, it'll never be the same. At least they look like other Pokemon. You will stick out like a sore thumb anywhere. One of my favorite parts of the entire movie is Team Rocket accidentally stumbling into Mewtwo's lair, seeing the silhouette on the cloning machine, and fearfully saying, Who's that Pokemon? Brilliant fourth wall break. I mean, what fourth wall? This is my life. Mewtwo fights with Mew, even though Mew is trying to teach his brother a lesson about empathy. And then their fight ended up looking like your average gender reveal. Mewtwo doesn't actually learn about empathy until Ash jumps between them and almost dies. Mewtwo only learned from that sacrifice. And I love that the clones cried for Ash as well, because it just hammers home Mewtwo's lesson. I'm just gonna read the quote, it's perfect. I see now that the circumstances of one's birth is irrelevant. It's what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. It's a great way to tie this movie's message with a pretty bow. But tell me why they kept saying during the fight that Pokemon shouldn't fight. What do you mean they shouldn't fight? I'll save the deep dive of this for when I go into Pokemon anthropology and philosophy, but for now, let's continue to focus on Mewtwo's creation. The games depict the creation of Mewtwo very differently. First of all, Team Rocket had nothing to do with it, and we have to piece together the story through research notes that are scattered in a mansion in Cinnabar Island. The notes say something about Mew birthing Mewtwo. They make it sound more natural, maybe to cover their tracks. The Pokedex, that has entries of every single Pokemon, does not sugarcoat the creation of Mewtwo. Quote, created by a scientist after years of horrific gene splicing and DNA engineering experiments, and similar to movie Mewtwo, he breaks out of the lab. So after all of this, would you be surprised to hear that this unassuming bald old man named Mr. Fuji was the one behind all of this? The same old man that said, quote, huh? You came to save me? Thank you, but I came here of my own free will. I came to calm the soul of Cubone's mother. I think Marowak's spirit has gone to the afterlife. I must thank you for your kind concern. This This guy doesn't appear to have nefarious intentions, unlike this Team Rocket guy from the first movie, who shares his name and fucking dies. Is this a case of parallel universes? And if that is the case, it explains why there are 2 Mewtwo's. Yes, indeed, there's a second Mewtwo in the Genesect movie. I'd prefer if it was 2 outcomes of the same event in parallel universes, rather than believing this same world did this twice. But with mob boss Giovanni still out there, anything is possible. Pitch for a new Pokemon series. We follow Giovanni in a Soprano-style show where he gets killed at the end. Thoughts? Comments? I love it. We're still at the tip of the iceberg. Because remember how I said,
Pokemon sexy.
I was joking, but also not. Because yes, indeed, humans and Pokemon have spoinked.
You what?
Let's talk about the Pidgeys and the Beedrills. When Ash's mom loves her Mr. Mime very much. No, but seriously, the Pokemon lore leaks really put the freak in Game Freak. And you want to hear something awful? The Pokemon they've picked are the least human-looking ones. One story starts with a man doing stuff to Octillery and discarding it back in the ocean. Keep your calamari away from that beautiful creature. Another one had Typhlosion transforming into a man, a human man, to trick a girl. I don't think Typhlosion can change its form, and once again, ew! None of these stories are consensual, but all of them start with, in the distant past, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans were still blurred, as if that made it better. If they started a story like that, but then went into an unconventional relationship that was still loving, that would be one thing, but the stories they're telling are full on Animal Planet. It is gnarly. I don't know why anybody would ever write that. I was expecting to match Game Freak's freak, but no. I will say though, knowing about human and Pokemon relations, it makes sense that they named Pointy Dick over here Kabutops. It unfortunately seems like relationships between humans and Pokemon is still blurred, as we've seen many Pokemon have crushes on humans in the anime, like how ostriches will do mating dances to humans. True story. Also, some Pokemon are just straight up deceased humans. Here's Gengar's Pokedex entry from Pokemon Moon. It apparently wishes for a traveling companion. Since it was once human itself, it tries to create one by taking the lives of other humans. Or how about Yamask? It wanders through ruins by night, carrying a mask that's said to have been the face it had when it was still human. It rambles through ruins, searching for someone who knows its face. An afterlife of torment. You even see its tears in its eyes. I would have much preferred hearing about an adult Gengar and an adult Yamask finding love in a hopeless place. The hopeless place being, of course, the afterlife. And I can sense you're thinking 2 things. Firstly, you're thinking, that is a better story. I agree, Professor Christmas Tree. Thank you. I know. But secondly, you're wondering, why would you have to clarify adults? Of course they're all grown up, because they're dead. And Pokemon wouldn't go there. The funny and silly world of Pokemon would not build lore around deceased children. That's depressing. Sadly clears throat. After a lost child perished in the forest, their spirit possessed a tree stump, causing the spirit's rebirth as this Pokemon. With a voice like a human child's, it cries out to lure adults deep into the forest, getting them lost among the trees. I'm back from crying. There are a lot of Pokemon that are tied to humans to the point where some wonder if plain old alive humans are Pokemon. I think one of the strongest pieces of evidence is the existence of the normal type. In some cases, a Pokemon is categorized as normal as a placeholder before its actual type is discovered. Think of all the fairy Pokemon. Some have even theorized that a new type will emerge, the sound type. A lot of Pokemon fit into this non-existent category. Loudred, Chatot, Jigglypuff of course, Meloetta, and more. But some normal types are categorized that way because they are as close to non-magical animals as Pokemon can get. Wooloo is just a sheep. Lechonk is just a pig. In Pokestar Studios, in Black 2 and White 2, you can fight non-Pokemon opponents. Since this is a place in the Pokemon universe where movies are made, I don't know how much of this is actually canon, but when looking at normal type, we have humanoid. who just looks like an overbaked Ditto if we're being honest. And even stranger, we have Monica, who is in Pokemon's version of the movie Tall Girl. I'm not even kidding. The god Pokemon, Arceus, is said to have made the Pokemon universe. Does that mean he created humans too? Or just Pokemon? Did Pokemons come first and humans are some sort of parasite? Let's explore more normal types and get to the bottom of this. Tandem Mouse is a mouse couple where they're very clingy. And when they evolve, they just have little mice children? What happens when they get older? Do they split up, go back to just being Tandem Mouse? The two little ones just appeared one day. The group might be a family of related Pokemon, but nobody knows for sure? Oh, hold on, they might not be the same species? They're adopted? What other Pokemon depend on each other? A huge example is the way Slowpoke evolves. When a Shelder bites down on a Slowpoke's tail, the two evolve into Slowbro, and the Shelder turns into that angry spiky thing. Why Shelder would want to play second fiddle to Patrick Star instead of turning into a medieval vagina is beyond me, but apparently, Shelder latches onto Slowpoke for food. Slowking is the exact same deal, except a Shelder bites Slowpoke's head. A more aggressive Shelder, I guess. Evolutions can happen in weird ways. Honestly, Slowbro/King's evolution makes more sense to me than Carablast and Shelmet. Their respective evolutions, because they're two totally different Pokemon, rely on their trainers trading one for the other. Carablast gains Shelmet's defense, while Shelmet's evolution is referred to as the Shell-Out Pokemon. The two only evolve because they cross paths during a trade, and Carablast steals Shelmet's shell. If I had a Shelmet, I would never subject it to that. A Carablast would sooner go to hell before it takes my baby's shell. Evolution is so important to you, you'd allow your child/pet to get mugged? I don't think so. The Pokemon's Plusle and Minun are two halves of the same battery. Sure, you can have one or the other, but they have combined attacks and work much better together. I personally feel that Plusle and Minun should have a combined Steven Universe fusion evolution, much like this pink dumbass and the shell forever biting his ass. Remoraid are often seen stuck to the bottom of Mantine. Pokemon science and the science of non-magical animals have many similarities. The biggest and most obvious symbiotic relationship is between humans and Pokemons, which is what I was getting at in my last section. Are humans Pokemon? Does it matter? They are inseparable regardless, and sometimes not for the better. Completely skimming over Pokemon used as food because it makes me sick. I'm a Poketarian. I do not eat Pokemon. Don't make me call Peetpa. Castform was created by scientists to, once again, play God. They made Castform to predict the weather. And to add insult to injury, they just had to give this tiny meteorologist titties. Why? Porygon, the virtual Pokemon. State-of-the-art technology was used to create Porygon. It was the first artificial Pokemon to be created via computer programming. In recent years, the species has been very helpful in cyberspace. These Pokemon will go around checking to make sure no suspicious data exists. Cybersecurity or little propaganda machine? Does Porygon work for the federal government? Is Porygon the one who ate TikTok? Golett and Golurk were the first man-made Pokemon. They were invented by an ancient civilization to be their bodyguard. The most egregious example of Pokemon exploitation since Mewtwo is by far Rotom. Rotom is an electric ghost type, but that ghost typing changes depending on what form it takes. Many Pokemon have different forms, but none like this, because Rotom possesses appliances. Possession explains the whole ghost thing, but yes indeed, the Rotom was engineered to be whatever humans needed. It can be an oven, washing machine, fridge, fan, lawnmower, and in Alola we have the Rotom Pokedex. Rotom Pokedex, believe it or not, is the worst, because at least regular Rotom can unpossess and repossess at will. It seems like Rotom Pokedex is stuck being a Pokedex. At least Rotom is still considered a Pokemon at the end of the day, but Rotom Pokedex and Rotom Phone are items. It's like their soul died. Pokemon fans even pointed out that the Rotom Pokedex cannot identify Rotom. I don't think the poor creature even realizes it's alive. Is it alive? Klefki was actually not created by humans, but I mean, come on, look at it. It's a key ring. I wonder how they came up with that. Oh, my boss says he wants a new Pokemon on his desk in an hour. What am I gonna do?
Major key alert.
In the past, noble families entrusted their vault keys to a clef key. They passed the clef key down through the generations, taking good care of it. This Pokemon's a royalist. When Ash's Greninja was a Froakie, it ran away from many trainers, and these trainers subsequently gave him up. Turns out, this Pokemon has the ability to read auras, so he just was simply not liking anyone's vibe until he met Ash. Which makes sense given how many times Ash's selflessness is highlighted throughout this series. Like, this kid is constantly jumping off of buildings to catch his Pokemon mid-air. I mean, most of the time he just does this for Pikachu, but let's ignore that obvious favoritism for now. We see powers human ninjas possess in the episodes The Legend of the Ninja Hero and A Festival of Decisions. We see the Ninja Body Switch, which is a type of teleportation that this lady Shinobu is able to do despite being a human. Also, she is incredibly elderly and has shown her true age, but most of the time she just looks like this. Despite comparing most humans to normal type, there are a lot of different instances of humans possessing different type moves as well. In an alternate timeline which features the episode Distant Blue Sky, Ash is the only one able to see the ghost of a boy named Sunny. And even though Sunny usually can't touch living things, Ash is able to hug him and allow Sunny to pet Pikachu as well. Meaning Ash and Pikachu are able to travel through different planes of existence. Something also seen in the main series when Ash and Greninja share the bond phenomena. First seen in the episode A Festival of Decisions, when Ash and Greninja's souls line up and briefly become one. Look at this merging. Listen to Ash's yell. Witness the look of surprise on his face when he says, "What did Greninja do?" "That's what you sound like, Ash. I keep forgetting you're here." They actually call it the bond phenomenon in the episode Kalos League Fashion with a Certain Flair. Mouthful of a title. Professor Sycamore found out about it when he was studying an ancient tablet. It's not only through a strong bond, otherwise Ash and Pikachu would have had the bond phenomenon as well, you already know, but it's also dependent on if the Pokemon has it in them. I think it's a psychic type kind of thing. I hate that Greninja wasn't part of Ash's biggest final battle after all of that buildup, but it is really cool that Greninja trained Lucario, who was in the final battle. Anyway, this isn't about Ash. Let's get back into some science, huh? The most recent generation, Scarlet and Violet, introduced Pokemon species that are similar to each other, but are completely different. Fans compared this to convergent evolution in animals. For example, sugar gliders and flying squirrels are an example of this, and for the longest time, I thought these animals were the same. But no, sugar gliders are marsupials, while flying squirrels are placental. The similarities these two species share stem from them having to evolve to their respective environments in similar ways. Let's look at the Pokemon that do this as well. Toedscool and Toedscruel look very similar to Tentacool and Tentacruel, but they are ground grass types. Toedscool lives in muggy forests. The flaps that fall from its body are chewy and very delicious. And then the evolution, Toedscruel, these Pokemon gather into groups that form colonies deep within forests. They absolutely hate it when strangers approach, which is maybe why this discovery came so much later. Once again, they go into how delicious they are, which couldn't be more different from the species we compare them to, Tentacool and Tentacruel, because they're poisonous. Now we have Wugtrio, the evolution of Wiglet, who is obviously compared to Diglett and Dugtrio. Those OGs from Gen 1 are ground type, while Wiglet and Wugtrio are water types. It has a vicious temperament, contrary to what its appearance may suggest. Now here, I completely disagree with that, because I feel like bright colors in nature usually indicate stay the fuck away from me. I also love that the rock formation looks like something you'd see underwater in Wiglet's picture. It's literally sand, as opposed to the little pile of dirt you see with Diglett. Though it looks like Diglett, Wiglet is an entirely different species. The resemblance seems to be coincidental result of environmental adaptation. What the fuck did I just say? But they continue on that this discovery took them a while, because in Wugtrio's entry, Wugtrio was once considered to be a regional form of Dugtrio, which is maybe why they named them so similarly. It's really fun. I used to be a real Gen 1er, more so for the humans, more so than anything else, because I always love expanding the Pokemon we see in the universe. But Convergent species, such a slay. We love to see it. Regional forms are the same Pokemon with differences due to, well, their environment. If you think about it, it's exactly the opposite as convergent species. Different Pokemon similar, same Pokemon different. So far, we have the Alolan forms, Galarian forms, Hisuian forms, and Paldean forms. I'll give you examples of each. There are way more regional, so I'm not going to get to all of them, but here are some of my favorites. Diglett is so lucky to get a convergent species and a new regional form. Look at this Alolan Diglett with a slight tan and 3 little hairs. I used to think these hairs were very stupid. And also, why are they blonde? But listen to this. The metal-rich geology, because Alolan Diglett also gained a steel type when it used to just be ground. The metal-rich geology of this Pokemon's habitat caused it to develop steel whiskers on its head. So those are steel, they're probably like pointy, ow. Its 3 hairs change shape depending on Diglett's mood. They're a useful communication tool among these Pokemon. Sorry, we're gonna get into the Alolan Dugtrio with all these crazy hairstyles, but I just remembered something. When my sister was little, she made a song about Digletts, and the song went like this, and I hope she's not mad at me for sharing this, but it's so funny and so cute. It went like this. What is under me? Whoa, whoa. What is under me? Whoa, whoa. Is it a sandwich, a piece of cheese, and Eevee? And then she couldn't remember the next lyrics, so then in the recording, she just goes, Eevee, and Eevee, 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 and she just kept repeating it, and it gets stuck in my head very occasionally because it's kind of a bop. What is under me? Whoa, whoa. What is under me? Whoa, whoa. Is it a sandwich? Now for the Alolan Dugtrio, good God, all these hairstyles. Their beautiful metallic whiskers create a sort of protective helmet on their heads. And they also function as highly precise sensors. You had me and you lost me. So it shows their emotion, it protects their head, and its sensors. They're doing too much. They're kind of serving though. The other thing I was confused about is in the original Dugtrio entry, it says its 3 heads bob separately up and down to loosen the soil nearby. Okay, the Alolan Dugtrio says the 3 of them get along very well. Through their formidable teamwork, they defeat powerful opponents. Like, they still could be referring to heads, but I don't know, it's just phrased weird. Like, this makes it sound like they're completely different entities. Maybe they're different hairstyles, depict that they're more individuals as opposed to the very connected Dugtrio. Maybe Dugtrio shares a brain. The first time I saw the Galarian Farfetch'd, it absolutely killed me. Now, if you don't know anything about Pokemon, the original Farfetch'd has this real hyperness to it. It's like Farfetch'd, all over the place, right? This Galarian Farfetch'd with this big leak, this much larger leak, very serious demeanor with the Galarian Farfetch'd. The stalks of leeks are thicker and longer in the Galar region, or Galar. Farfetch'd that adapted to these stalks took on a unique form. Quite simply put, if they reach for the bigger weapon, they're built different. This Farfetch'd isn't fucking around. It's probably looking to defend a deceased relative, avenge them. The original Farfetch'd didn't evolve, but for this one, we have Surfetch'd. If I wasn't wheezing before, like, only Farfetch'd that have survived many battles can attain this evolution. When this Pokemon's leek withers, it will retire from combat. The sword is the leek, yes, I see that now. The leek stalk is both weapon and food. Like, it's ridiculous. Meowth has 2 different regional forms, and I don't know which one I like more. We have the Alolan Meowth, that's a dark type now, and it's accustomed to luxury because it used to live with Alolan royalty. As a result, it's very picky about food. The Alolan Persian, same deal. Very sleek, bigger head, maybe inflated ego even. Deeply proud and keenly smart, this Pokemon moves with cunning during battles and relentlessly attacks enemies' weak points. Galarian Meowth is exactly the opposite. It's a steel type, probably because with its upbringing it was prone to stealing, because guess what? Living with a savage seafaring people has toughened this Pokemon's body so much that parts of it have turned to iron. That Meowth was being tossed around that boat so much that its skin is turning to steel. These daring Pokemon have coins on their foreheads. I mean, all of them do, but sure. Dark coins are harder, and harder coins garner more respect among Meowth. Galarian Meowth strays so far from its roots of being domesticated that it has a completely different evolution called Berserk. When I first saw this, it made me go berserk. I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm eating this up. What appears to be an iron helmet is actually hardened hair. It's both nostalgic and creative. I feel like you can draw inspiration from earlier in a series, especially if it's as iconic as Pokemon, without it getting stale. Alolan Raichu. So what's interesting about this is there's not an Alolan Pikachu or Pichu, it's just an Alolan Raichu. It is believed that the weather, climate, and food of the Alola region all play a part in causing Pikachu to evolve into this form of Raichu. My boy, what are they feeding you? This Pokemon rides on its tail while it uses its psychic powers to levitate. It attacks with star-shaped thunderbolts. Now that goes really hard. For whatever reason, there's something unnerving about this design. I don't know why, it's cute. It's very cute. It kind of just looks like they poured resin over Raichu. I don't know. It looks like a toy. Galarian Rapidash absolutely serves. I don't know why they specify that the power Psycho Cut unleashed from the horn will punch a hole right through a thick metal sheet before later saying that it's weak against steel types. What happened to blasting a hole through thick metal sheets? Sounds like that was a load of sheet. Alola was the first to introduce regional forms, so they got real silly with it. You've heard of Blonde Diglett, now get ready for Rattata with a mustache. But they have an explanation. Its whiskers provide it with a keen sense of smell, enabling it to pick up the scent of hidden food and locate it instantly. And this mustache, allowing him to grab only the most nutritious and delicious fare, caused the Alolan Raticate to be quite chunky. I love Alolan Raticate. Regular Raticate scares me, but this one's chompers are covered by his chubby cheeks. I just love him. I think nothing beats the design of the Alolan Sandshrew and the Alolan Sandslash. The Alolan Sandshrew draws inspiration from the armored body of OG Sandshrew, and just look at him. He's a little igloo. And then the spikes of the Sandslash, naturally, those turn into ice. These designs are peak. Whoever created them needs a raise. Arceus needs a raise, I mean. We have a Galarian Slowbro and Slowking. A Shelder Bite sets off a chemical reaction with the spices inside Slowbro's body, causing Slowbro to become a poison-type Pokemon. If this Pokemon, because the Shelder's on its hand now, if this Pokemon squeezes the tongue of the Shelder biting it, the Shelder will release a toxic liquid from the tip of its shell, and you can see the different color. I don't know why they're acting like that Shelder is unchanged. Like, why are we still calling that fucking thing Shelder that doesn't look anything like Shelder? Slowking. Even scarier. A combination of toxins and the shock of evolving has increased Shelder's intelligence to the point that Shelder now controls Slowking. While chanting strange spells, this Pokemon combines its internal toxins with what it's eaten, creating strange potions. And if an Alolan trainer saw it Slowpoke evolve into a Slowking, they'd probably be like, Slowpoke, you're evolving! If I saw that my poor Galarian Slowpoke was turning into a Slowking, that Shelder's getting smashed with my fists. With, like shattered, not back in the olden days when the line between Pokemon and human were blurred. No, not that. That Shelder is going to hell. There are 3 different types of Paldean Tauros. The OG Tauros is a normal type, the worst type. But Paldean Tauros, they could be fighting water, fighting fire, or just fighting. I genuinely feel bad for the original Tauros. No one's ever gonna want him again. His Sway and Typhlosion, like the Alolan Raichu, its pre-evolutions do not have a different form. His Sway and Typhlosion is a fire ghost type, set to purify lost forsaken souls with its flames and guide them to the afterlife. I believe its form, who's speaking to me? I believe its form has been influenced by the energy of the sacred mountain towering at his Sway's center. No, because you're telling me Typhlosion got these powers from a sacred mountain. Dude repented for his sins. The way this just adds on to the creepy story about Typhlosion, I don't like it. He's seen the error of his ways and he's a spiritual leader now. I don't trust him. I don't. Apologies to Galarian Weezing. My snap second judgment was wrong about you. Galarian Weezing looks very uppity. It has a large top hat, which is also a smokestack, as well as a thick mustache. To put it plainly, Galarian Weezing looks like a billionaire. But this Pokemon consumes particles that contaminate the air, and instead of leaving droppings, it expels clean air. I thought Galarian wheezing was a major polluter. Meanwhile, this is more commentary. This is high art. They are mocking the major polluters of the world while saving the world. And Your Honor, I'm going to have to stand. Alolan Executor. The blazing sunlight has brought out the true form and powers of this Pokemon. So Executors just thrive in the sun, which makes sense. It's a grass type. And it's supposed to be based off of, a palm tree, which obviously the Alolan Executor looks way more like a palm tree than the Executor we're used to from Gen 1. The logic checks out. I know we were going over regional forms for a bit. This is the last one, and I haven't even listed them all, mind you. Galarian Yamask. Remember the one that's carrying the face it had when it was still human? But for the Galarian Yamask, it said that this Pokemon was formed when an ancient clay tablet was drawn to a vengeful spirit. So this is a completely different Pokemon. It gains sentience in completely different ways. I feel like Galarian Yamask should be a convergent species. In the second episode of Pokemon XY, Professor Sycamore explains that he's studying this new thing called Mega Evolution. They subtly foreshadow Mega Evolution being a major part of this series as early as the theme song, when they blast the symbol for it out of nowhere. Anyway, Professor Sycamore describes it as an extra evolutionary stage that scientists theorize is caused in part by a trainer and Pokemon's strong bond, combined with a special stone. He also reveals that this type of evolution is not permanent, and the Pokemon returns to its normal form. A quick question, why call it evolution? Why not call it just another form? As long as you don't label it in the following ways. Keep in mind, these are all real. We have Toxtricity's low-key form. We have Morpeko's hangry form, holy shit. So while the name Mega Evolution sounds better, it also gives a false idea of what this physical change actually is. To you, it might be a mechanic in a damn game, but to me, it's my life. It's not fucking evolution! I'm tired of people pretending it is! Let me read you some of the Pokedex entries on Mega Evolution and see if you can live with yourself after witnessing the effects of Pokemon Roid Rage. I think the best Mega Evolution is Mega Aerodactyl, so we're starting very strong. The power of Mega Evolution has completely restored its genes. So this is what Aerodactyl was supposed to look like. Remember how we said that the original Aerodactyl wasn't a perfect specimen of what it was? This is the ideal Aerodactyl form. Look at those cheekbones and that strong chin. Now, this may just look like an Ampharos with long, luxurious hair, but massive amounts of energy intensely stimulated Ampharos' cells, apparently awakening its long-sleeping dragon blood. I mean, the power level change is always quite impressive. Listen to Mega Audino. Using the feelers on its ears, it can tell how someone is feeling or when an egg may hatch. It touches others with the feelers on its ears, using the sound of their heartbeats to tell how they're feeling. Chansey Wishes. I see why this is the new nurse Pokemon. They're simply made for this. Mega Beedrill. Its legs have become poison stingers. I think that is just so funny. Like, sometimes the descriptions are something long asleep was awakened. Something fiercely woven within their ancient genes. A power so strong, the consequences cannot yet be fathomed. And this one's just like, whoa, bee legs! Sharp, pointy bee legs! Did you guys see that? Mega Glalie. The power of Mega Evolution was so strong that it smashed Glalie's jaw. Its inability to eat very well leaves Glalie irritated. I thought it was gonna say something stupid again, like, it sprouted a horn on its forehead like a unicorn. But instead, no, everything about this entry is about what immense pain it's in. Mega Heracross. A tremendous influx of energy builds it up, but when Mega Evolution ends, Heracross is bothered by terrible soreness in its muscles. Once again, downer. Maybe this will cheer us up. Houndoom. Its red claws and the tips of its tail are melting from high internal temperatures that are painful to Houndoom itself. Fuck. That was probably the worst of it, right, Professor Christmas Tree? Right, Professor Christmas Tree? Right? You're getting coal in your stocking this year. Mega Tyranitar. Due to the colossal power poured into it, this Pokemon's back splits right open. It splits right open! Its destructive instincts are the only thing keeping it moving. And keep in mind, they're trying to sell this as the bond between Pokemon and trainer. More like the blind loyalty of the Pokemon. Yes, you're in immense pain, but don't you want your trainer to win that trophy? Now, if that isn't angsty enough, we're introduced to Gigantamax, a temporary transformation introduced in Sword and Shield. This debuted in the anime in the episode Mind-Boggling Dynamax. Now, what the fuck is a Dynamax? It's pretty much the same shit from what I've seen. Basically, during a battle, a Pokemon gets big because they have a special type of wristwatch. What time is it? Time to kick some ass, apparently. In the anime episode, we first see it occur naturally in this random field. A sleeping Snorlax is surrounded by red floating particles that cause it to grow about 100 times its size, and the seeds on its belly grow into trees. This is probably the tamest form of Gigantamax, just because of Snorlax's lazy disposition. But usually, it reads more like this. Gigantamax Cinderace. Infused with Cinderace's fighting spirit, the Gigantamax Pyro Ball never misses its target and completely roasts opponents. So much power is packed within its trunk that if it were to unleash that power, the resulting blast could level mountains and change the landscape. Its wings can whip up winds more forceful than any a hurricane could muster. The gusts blow away everything. The nectar is so sweet. Aw, that's nice. So sweet, it's sickening! Ha! And other Pokemons that catch a whiff will faint! Gigantamax is literally like, what if Pokemon were Dragon Ball Z? No, really. Why have they never went Super Saiyan before? It is that level of a lot. Here are more examples. Gigantamax Kingler. The bubbles it spews out are strongly alkaline. Any opponents hit by them will have their bodies quickly melted away. Bro looks like Zeus. Gigantamax is just like, what if every single Pokemon were a legendary? Gigantamax Alcremie. Cream pours endlessly from this Pokemon's body. Weird opening line, maybe it gets better. The cream stiffens when compressed by impact. A harder impact results in a harder cream. The end. No, wait, there's more. Gigantamax Colossal. When Galar was hit by a harsh cold wave, this Pokemon served as a giant heating stove and saved many lives. We finally got to see a nice spin on these Titan-level powers. Gigantamax Eevee. Oh, this'll be fun. Gigantamax Energy upped the fluffiness of the fur around Eevee's neck. Aw, the fur will envelop a foe, capturing its body and captivating its mind. Having gotten even friendlier and more innocent, Eevee tries to play with anyone around, only to end up crushing them with its immense body. I feel like this is an edgy kid writing fanfiction. And then it gets so big, everyone dies. Don't let his threatening appearance fool you. One of these Pokemon once used its immeasurable strength to lift a large ship that was in trouble. It then carried the ship to port. So Gigantamax isn't explicitly abusive like Mega Evolution, but if it's used in battle, it absolutely is. Humans continue to fly closer and closer to the sun. Also, and I know I'm just complaining about semantics here, but did you notice that Gigantamax didn't claim to be evolution?
What the hell is even that?
Terastellization was discovered in a place in Paldea called Area Zero, the same place where Paradox Pokemon were discovered. Apparently the professors in Paldea used Terastellization to power the time machine that brought back Paradox Pokemon. But the Paldea Pokemon weren't the first to discover this new glittery Poke power, because the people of Paldea have been observing this phenomenon for about 140 years. This shit was before Mega Evolution, before Gigantamax, but Terastellization, as much as it goes over my head, has a much cooler origin. It all started with the Terapagos, a species of Pokemon that survived extinction by crystallizing itself and laying dormant in Paldea for millions of years.
Oh, I see.
But you know I didn't die.
Okay.
I had crystallized.
Oh.
Love this lore, it all checks out. It's cool that these crystalline Pokemon can change typing entirely, so now we can have Water-type Terra Jigglypuffs, Dark-type Terra Charizards, Bug-type Teddiursa, and much more. Because unlike with Mega Evolutions and Gigantamax, Terastellization is not just limited to some Pokemon. Gigantamax and Mega Evolutions just randomly hand-picked a few. But you can Terastallize every Pokemon in the Paldea region. It is silly that the whole crystally thing, aside from the topper is all for looks. Like, when I saw these crystal Pokemon, I assumed it was only going to be for rock types, because I thought it was crystal-y for a reason other than, oh, it just looks cool. Hey, listen, work, I don't care. In the Pokemon Horizons episode, Nemona, Brassius, and ... I learned that the type changes varies not from Pokemon species to Pokemon species, but from individual Pokemon to Pokemon. Most Palmo turn into an electric Tera type, but some Palmo have a flying Tera type. So it's predetermined in a way. This is also where the extra typing Stellar comes from. Stellar is only seen in Terastellization, and it has an advantage against other terastallized Pokemon. Now, question mark type is just a mystery. It disappeared after Generation 4, and I think it was the game's cheeky way of just saying, you see, we didn't discover everything yet, stay tuned. Sylveon's type was even teased as question mark before they revealed Fairy type. Leading right into my last point, let's just stick to regular evolution. It's complicated enough as is. Every election cycle we find a new evolution. Now, what the fuck are Ultra Beasts? A half-baked idea, and let me tell you why. Even though these Ultra Beasts undeniably serve... Like, my god, I wish I were her. So basically, Ultra Beasts are Pokemon from another planet. A step further than that. Another dimension, even. They appear through wormholes. As Professor Mon was studying Ultra Beasts in Alola, he was sucked into an Ultra wormhole never to be seen again. They build up mystery and intrigue, giving us just enough before it's all flushed down the shitter, because yes, of course they have a Pokeball that can easily catch them. Ash captured the heart of this one without even trying, and without even knowing what it was. And once they knew Ultra Beasts were popping up left and right, they were tasked with bringing them home. Ooh, what an interesting mission. I bet the otherworldliness of these beasts will make a chill go down my spine. Oh look, Ash is having an epic face-off with Buzzwole, a swole bee. And, Mr. B just starts dabbing. They also take him down by distracting him with poses before he's captured. Beware beat the shit out of Skinny Queen Pheromosa, who dropped all the Z-crystals she stole. Z-crystals are another power-up, but they bored the shit out of me, so I skipped it. The kids caught Xurkitree and Blasphalon as the two were trying to upstage each other with flashy performances. They also mentioned that these Ultra Beasts are not used to each other, I think. So all of these Ultra Beasts come from different dimensions, not the same one. Ultra Beasts also have shiny forms, and fit perfectly within the pre-existing types. It's so difficult to see them fumble when cool concepts are so close to being established. The Pokemon called Type Null was created to combat Ultra Beasts. It looks very bare bones and prototypy. Let's see what the Pokedex says. It was modeled after a mighty Pokemon of myth. The mask placed upon it limits its power in order to keep it under control. I can't believe 8 generations later, and they're like, maybe the Mewtwo experiments made sense, actually. No, Pokemon universe, nah! And it evolves into Silvally, just naturally, because humans accurately recreated this mythical Pokemon, I guess. A solid bond of trust between this Pokemon and its trainer awakened the strength hidden within Silvally. It can change its type at will. So this is actually a really cool concept. A wormhole opens up, mysterious creatures come out of it, scientists spiral to create a Pokemon that can defend them, tale as old as time. But then, the creation of Beast Balls, awful name by the way, easily catching the Ultra Beasts, waters down any intrigue. We also see a bit of the concept art from each of the worlds. It offers a bit more mystery, like what are those jacked palm trees behind Buzzwole? But I'm gonna be really critical here. Overall, I just don't feel like these worlds are different enough. Like, what if it was more three-dimensional, like the original Porygon? What if the sky and sea and volcanoes were different colors? I don't know, what if we just got weirder? All these worlds are kind of depressing looking, minus Buzzwole, they're having fun. But I feel like a great way to get us excited about Ultra Beasts is by making their worlds exciting. And a great way of doing that is, and this is the only time I'd ever suggest this, using Ultra Beasts as like a backdoor pilot and fully expanding that world. How different is it? Maybe there is no dialogue. Maybe the crossovers between the Pokemon world and the Ultra Beast world are unexpected and brief, and you know, special. Pokemon tends to lay it on real thick, and I love that about it, but Pokemon from a different dimension should just have a different vibe. Ultra Beasts should be as out of place and absurd as Nosferatu is in SpongeBob. I just fear they could have committed more. Now on to some more discoveries from my super duper extra ultra deluxe before I let you go. Fellow geezers, fellow Gen 1ers, did you know that Primeape now has an extra evolution? He's called Annihilape. So if you thought Primeape was angry before, honey, when its anger rose beyond a critical point, this Pokemon gained power that is unfettered by the limits of its physical body. This guy got so mad he fucking died and went ghost. You want to hear about more Pokemon that have to do with death? No! Shut up! Bramblin, a soul unable to move on to the afterlife, was blown around in the wind until it got tangled up with dried grass and became a Pokemon. Imagine being reincarnated into a tumbleweed. Keanu Reeves! I missed a very important regional Pokemon. Whoopsie doopsie. Honestly, I just didn't want to admit I was wrong. This is a Galarian Moltres. With the Paradox forms, they weren't backpedaling shit. This book only goes up to 1008. Anamoris, in the incarnate form, would. I mean, blatant favoritism with the brand's mascot, Pikachu? No, they would never. Pikachu can get different powers depending on the outfit it wears. Least obvious merch gimmick. Thank you so much for joining me to scratch the surface of this alarming world. I hope to see you soon to discuss Pokemon anthropology and philosophy, like what the fuck is Pokemon breeding, and why on earth do they have the character interested in it throughout the entire anime.
Don't forget, Ash, I've been studying to be the world's best Pokemon breeder.
And I have more Pokemon ideas on the noggin, so I hope this video does well so I don't have to throw these in the trash. Have a great day, butt lovers. Bye!